This video is all about the fundamental chord shapes and how to think about them. This is commonly known as the CAGED system. The purpose of this video is to talk about the pros and cons of the CAGED system and why we want to actually move away from calling it the CAGED system and to focus on the 5 common shapes and how we use them to visualize the guitar fingerboard. The reason the CAGED system can be a problem, which is what I call the prison, is that it is presented as static shapes and is referenced by the open chord shape on the guitar and then the actual name of the chord that you are playing. This ends up sounding like play the A form of E or play the E form of A, and this can actually get really confusing. And in my opinion, this is a way of explaining the system without actually really knowing what notes are in the chord or actually seeing how they overlap, which is really the true benefit of the system. Our goal is to know and learn the 5 basic chord shapes, and then we're going to learn 15 basic chords. On top of that, we'll use those to learn the 21 essential chords. Ultimately, we're going to be learning 24 universal basic chord shapes that are going to allow us to see the actual guitar neck as one whole thing. And then we turn this whole system into what I call the playground. Now, although it is commonly taught in the way that people say A form or E form, I really think that a lot of people are trying to express a way of thinking about the guitar fingerboard without having to talk about the actual notes that you are playing. Now, this is a huge pitfall in the guitar world and unfortunately widely used. And I think the idea is that people are actually avoiding knowing the notes. So again, thinking about the root notes using the 6th, the 5th, and the 4th string root note approach and not thinking about the E form and the A form definitely will be a game changer. We will absolutely need to know what names of the pitches are on each fret starting with the 6th, 5th, and the 4th string. However, for this lesson, we are only going to focus on the notes C, A, G, E, and D. Now, the reason that these chord shapes are so useful is because basically every single chord that you're ever going to play is going to be a variation of one of these 5 chord shapes. So now our goal is to know the major, the minor, and the dominant 7th chords using the shapes in different positions utilizing the 6th, 5th, and 4th string roots. This is actually going to give us 24 universal chord shapes that will become the foundation for pretty much any chord that you're ever going to play on the guitar. Okay, we're going to start with the 5 basic chord shapes, and you probably already know these, but we're going to start with C major, and then A major, G major, E major, and then D major. Okay, so what's important to know about these 5 chord shapes are that starting with C major, that's a 5th string root. So the root note is C, and that's our C major chord. And then the A chord is also a 5th string root. So A starts on the 5th string. When we switch to E, now we're on the 6th string root. Okay, G is also a 6th string root. And then D is our 4th string root. Okay, so this idea of having 2 6th string roots, 2 5th string roots, and 1 4th string root is common to all the chord shapes that we're going to explore. Okay, so now we're going to add the most widely used types of chords, or what we actually call sonority of the chord. Okay, and this is the sound of the actual chord. So we have major chords, minor chords, and then we're going to use dominant 7th chords. Okay, so now we're going to start with C major, and we're going to go through the 3 types off of that same root. So we're going to start here on the 5th string root of C. Okay, and then we're going to play a C minor chord in the same position. And then finally we have a C7 chord. Okay, so we're going to play all of those same types of chords off of every root. So now we go to A. So I have A major, A minor, and then A7. Okay, then we move to E. So we got E major, E minor, and then E7. Then we move to G, G minor, and then G7. And then finally we have D, D minor, and then D7. Okay, so we have our 3 chord types plus our 5 different roots. That gives us our 15 basic chords. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the 6th and the 5th string root bar chords. in combination with our 15 basic chords, this is going to give us our 21 essential chord shapes. Now, part of the reason why these are so essential is because they literally are some of the most commonly used chords that people play in terms of shapes to move around across the fingerboard. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to take each of those 5 roots, C, A, G, E, and D, and we're going to play them off of the 6th and the 5th string. Okay, so we're going to be starting with C major. So C major is already a 5th string root, so we already know that one. So we have C major, C minor, okay, and then we also have C7. Okay, but the ones we're going to add now is we're going to use this position here to play our C minor chord. So this is going to be a 5th string root minor chord shape. Okay, and then we also have C7 here. Okay, likewise we can go to the 6th string root, we go up to the 8th fret, that's our note C, and we can play this shape. And this gives us a C major, so we're thinking it's a 6th string root major bar form or just a 6th string root a major chord. And then we have minor, and then we have a 7th chord, which we can also play like this. Okay, and that pretty much introduces those chord shapes, but now we're going to use it off every root. So we go to E major, already a 6th string root, E minor, E7. Okay, but now we can actually go to the 5th string root and we can play E major, E minor, and then E7. Okay, so the next one is going to be G, 6th string root. So we can play G here as normal. Then we can play G minor here, and then G7. But off of the 6th string root, we can use those same chord forms that we use for C major. So now we have G major, okay, 6th string root major bar form, then 6th string root minor, 7th chord, also a 7th chord. Okay, so the same fundamental shapes there. Okay, so now we're going to do A major. So we have our 5th string root A major, okay, A minor, and then A7. Okay, using our 6th string roots, we can now play this in 5th position. This is our root note A on the 6th string. So we have A major, A minor, A7. Okay, also like this. Okay, but likewise, we can actually move up to the 12th position, okay, and we can play our 5th string root bar forms. So that's A major, A minor, and then A7. Okay, and then finally we have D. So we can start with D major down here. This is actually a 4th string root, so let's go ahead and move to the 5th string root. So we can play D major, 5th string root, major chord, D major, 5th string root minor, D major, 5th string root, 7th chord. And then we can move to the 10th position or the 10th fret of the 6th string. Now we have D again, that's our root note. We have D major, D minor, and then D7. Okay, so that's going to cover our 21 essential chord shapes. Now, a good way to actually work these into your fingers, right, is that we're going to add some root notes so that we can play everything in 1st position. Okay, so we're going to be adding the root notes F and B flat. Okay, and that's going to keep us in 1st position, pretty much meaning that our index finger is on the 1st fret. So now if we go through each of these in the major, we're going to have C major, A major, G major, E major, D major, then we have F major, and then B flat. Okay, then you can go through and work on all those exact same chord shapes, but work on major, minor, and your dominant 7th chords. So now we're going to take those 5 root notes, C, A, G, E, and D, and now we're going to focus on the 4th string root. Okay, so this is the next level. So this is usually the area that people are a little bit unfamiliar, but you can really start to break down the rest of the entire fingerboard of the guitar, because we need all 5 to fit together, and then we can see how it works across the fingerboard. So as far as using the 4th string root, okay, we're going to have the same basic chord shape, so I'm just going to go through each of the chord forms one at a time. We're going to start with the root note C. So now I'm going to be on the 4th string, and we're going to be actually on the 10th fret, okay, for C major. So you're going to have this shape for C major, and then C minor, and C7. Okay, so when we add those 3 fundamental shapes to the ones that we've previously done, we now have 24 universal chord shapes that really stretches across the entire fingerboard, and then you'll be able to apply it to well, the entire guitar neck. So let's go ahead and move on to the next root note. So we're going to do A. A is actually going to be on the 7th fret of the 4th string. So we have those same 3 shapes: A major, A minor, and A7. Okay, so now we're going to be doing G major. So G major is just a whole step down from A. So now we're actually on the 5th fret of the 4th string. Okay, so there's G major, G minor, and then G7. Okay, so now we're going to do E. So we're on the 2nd fret of the 4th string for E. So we have E major, E minor, and then E7. Okay, and these are all based on the D shape, right? So D is already our 4th string root, D minor, and then D7. Okay, but way up here we could do it on the 12th fret as well, which is our note D. So we can play D major here, D minor, and then D7. Okay, so to practice all of these chords in first position, we're going to add the root note E flat. Okay, so that's going to be the 1st fret of the 4th string. Okay, so that's E flat major, E flat minor, E flat 7. Okay, so real quickly, to practice all of these in first position, which is a great way to do it, and then we'll start to expand across the fingerboard, is I'm just going to play the major chords. So I can play our 5th string root, C major, okay, and then 5th string root, A major, 6th string root, E major, then we have 6th string root, G major. Okay, now we're going to be adding the F, okay, for F major, B flat, which is the 1st fret of the 5th string, so that's B flat major, and then finally E flat major, which is the 1st fret of the 4th string. Okay, so this is going to allow us to play all those chords within first position and really get a good way to practice the different chord forms. So really briefly, I'm just going to cover how this stretches across the fingerboard. So if I want to take C major, I can do my 2 5th string roots and play C major, and then I can do the 6th string roots, okay, and play C major, and then finally the 4th string root. Okay, and I can do this for actually any of the shapes. So I can do C minor here, I can play C minor here, C minor here, and now C minor here. Okay, and the real benefit is to seeing how all these connect and pretty much carry over each other, so you can get across the entire fingerboard using only 5 shapes. So from here, what we're going to be starting to thinking about you should do next is we're going to learn our 7th chords, and then from there we start to actually harmonize a C major scale, and this gets us into all our other types of chords. So this actually becomes a great foundation for all the other things that you're going to be learning about chords. But this is the reason I call it 21 Essential and then 24 Universal, is there's so much needed in your basic foundation for developing a good chord vocabulary and to be able to move all over the fingerboard pretty easily. Now this is going to be a great foundation for your rhythm playing, your songwriting, and your improvisational skills. I recommend that you review these chords for 5 or 10 minutes at least every other day so that you can get to the point where you can play them subconsciously. So remember, the start is always clumsy at first, but with consistent practice, they will become easy and then ultimately completely second nature. And then this will make your playing like a master a reality. Thanks.